So
there's so much to awareness and mindfulness, like you said. Like, that's so important. You can't ignore certain stuff. You can't ignore the temptations. It's with anxiety. I have a really bad anxiety. I've had it for a long time, but the past 6 months has been debilitating. And a lot of the studies and therapy and stuff that people like me go through, a lot of it is to be mindful of that stuff. Like, be mindful of that temptation, not to ignore it, not to suppress it, but acknowledge it, note it, and move on, or go throughout your day.
Yeah, that's it. You know, we've always kind of talked about that, but I think when you relate it with momentum and being able to, you know, go with the flow of momentum or fight against it, like I said before, it's kind of profound to think, okay, now I have another way that I can relate to clients, whether they are, you know, people that are 60 years old that are trying to stand up off their couch, or they're professional athletes in their respective sports. It's like having that awareness to be able to communicate that, to be like, hey, here's some options of things that could happen,
right?
Rather than, you know, the last guy that I had on here, Austin Malleolo, he changed his life. Boom, like, turn. That was no longer an option. He had wiped that back, clean from the table, and that was the route that he went, to where, you know, he couldn't relate then, you know, years later after having this incredible amount of success, because he was capable of doing that. He was strong-willed enough to do that. You know, it was hard for when people were like, oh, I went out and had drinks, to where it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why would you do it?
He can't even see it. He's like, what do you mean?
Yeah. And so there is a disconnect. And again, this was like when I had first met him, after he had, you know, made those changes. Now I think as he's growing as a entrepreneur, businessman, as a person, he has a kid. Now it's like it's a lot more of like an understanding thing, to where it's not so black and white, because it was so beneficial for him. He's, you know, understands there's more ways for it to go on. But I just have so much respect for someone like that is able to say, and it was like a rock bottom point. You know, it wasn't like he went out one night and came back and was hungover the next day. It was like, man, I got to stop doing this. But, you know, he was able to make those changes, which I think with trainers, relating back to when we were talking about the, you know, Eat the Damn Cake podcast, and a lot of the stuff that I preach, is that those are both options.
Right.
So when people come at, you know, when people ask, you know, it's like, well, what are you willing to do for it? And there are those people that are willing to go cold turkey, or willing to go all in to get the results. They're willing to change everything about what they are, who they are today, in order to be the person they want to become. And, you know, those are the clients that you see. Those are the people that lose over 100 pounds.
And dude, you want to know something too that's so important about that process, that guys like you are so important to the world, is the accountability piece of it. Because sometimes people, they do want to sacrifice. They do want to go to that, but they need that extra oomph. They need that extra hand holding. They need that extra someone to push them when they're down, to keep them up when they are up. Yeah. That hand holding accountability part. And with Nutre, I love Nutre because of that, because the food part of it's like, listen, what is your excuse not to eat healthy at this point? Because it's already there for you. Yeah. And now where I'm at, like Nutre kind of 2.0, 3.0 is, how can we as a business keep them accountable? We did the food part, but what's process 2 for that? How can I help someone when they're feeling down, they feel like they want to give up on that journey? What can Nutre do to lift them up? And that's kind of my next goal for us, is like, what can we do? Is it a life coaching program? Is it every single client has a one-on-one person they could speak to? Like, what is it? Is it just beating them with information on why to keep doing it? Like, what is that next phase for us? Because it's so important, dude. Mm-hmm. And that's why coaches and trainers and mentors are so important to people and humans, is because accountability and reminders are so important for people. That's why I like to read. I know 90% of the stuff that I read, I already know it, but to read it keeps it top of mind. To listen to podcasts, it keeps it top of mind. You know what I mean? It's like that reminder for me, like, you know what? I got to get back on my shit. Or you want to know what? Like, I got to wake up a little bit earlier tomorrow. I got to challenge myself. I got to be a little bit more disciplined. It's that accountability and those reminders, man.
Yeah.